What would you think if I told you that your chronic exhaustion is not a badge of honor, but a pathetic confession of your own lack of leverage? Today, perhaps more than ever, we are living in a grand 2D animated tragedy where the characters measure their worth by the thickness of their under-eye circles and the frantic, vibrating pace of their digital scurry. You see them everywhere. The grinders waking up at 4 in the morning to take ice baths they hate and scream affirmations at their own shivering reflections, convinced that the universe is a celestial vending machine that only accepts sweat and cortisol as currency. They are the liturgical dancers in the church of hustle culture, vibrating with a caffeinated desperation to look useful to a world that doesn't even know their names. But look closer at the high-definition penthouses of the digital elite, the modern-day Machiavellian princes, and you will find a different creature altogether. You will find the mastermind. He is not running. He is not sweating. In fact, he is likely still under his silk duvet, staring at the ceiling with the cold, calculated gaze of a spider waiting for the vibration of a single lucrative thread. You have been lied to. The most radical act of rebellion and the most sophisticated power move in the modern age is not working harder, but the sublime, offensive art of strategic laziness. Imagine the archetypal subject of our era, a frantic vector-animated character with bulging eyes and 4 different productivity apps open on a glowing smartphone, each one a digital shackle he polished himself. He is a victim of the efficiency trap, a psychological cage where the reward for doing more work is simply being given more work to do by those who profit from his friction. He is the mule. He believes the world is a meritocracy that rewards the thickness of one's calluses. But the Machiavellian strategist understands that in a world of limited energy and infinite distractions, the person who moves the most is usually the one being moved by someone else. Power does not flow to the person who carries the stones. It flows to the person who convinced the others that carrying stones is a spiritual necessity. To be lazy is to declare immediate bankruptcy on that system. It is to pull your troops back from the border of a war you never agreed to fight. You are reclaiming your temporal capital, the only currency that truly matters and the only one they cannot print more of. You must realize that the guilt you feel when you aren't being productive is not your own voice. It is a ghost in the machine, a socialized trauma designed to keep you manageable. Society fears a person who can sit in a room alone and do nothing, for that person cannot be easily bought, bullied, or manipulated with a deadline. When you're busy, you are predictable. You are a cog that requires oiling to keep the machine turning. But when you are lazy, when you are lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, or taking a 3-hour lunch in the middle of a Tuesday, you are entering a state of high-order observation. You are practicing the stoic discipline of ataraxia, the unshakable stillness that Marcus Aurelius sought amidst the chaos of the Roman Empire. He knew that the most important work a leader does is not the movement of his hands, but the decision-making of his mind. By refusing to engage in the busyness of the masses, you are realizing that your value is not a function of your output, but a function of your leverage. Why would you break your back to win a race that was designed to keep you on a treadmill? Look at the satirical tragedy of the modern office or the digital hustle space. It is a theater of the absurd where people perform work to justify their salaries, filling calendars with meetings to discuss meetings, and writing emails to explain emails. It is a grand scurry that consumes the prime years of a human life for the sake of appearances. Why are you participating in this dance? Because you have been told that lazy is a slur. But in the Machiavellian handbook, laziness is a filter. It is the mother of all innovation. It forces you to find the path of least resistance. It forces you to automate, to delegate, and to eliminate the unnecessary. The person who is willing to work 80 hours a week is the person who will never find the shortcut. They are too busy being virtuous to be effective. But the strategist who wants to stay in bed will find the golden 20% of actions that produce 80% of the results, and they will discard the rest with the cold indifference of a surgeon. You are the nothing that makes the everything possible. You are the ghost in the system, the mastermind in the shadows, and the only one who realized that the race was a treadmill designed to keep you in place while the master watches from his bed. Observe the liturgical performance of the busy man, a 2D animated caricature of self-importance, rushing through glass-walled corridors with a lukewarm coffee in one hand and a crumbling sense of self in the other. He measures his worth by the thickness of his calendar, unaware that his schedule is actually a cage built by the priorities of people who view him as an expendable battery. In the Machiavellian ledger, energy is the most volatile asset you possess. If you spend it all in the morning on the trivialities of checking in and staying on top of things, you will have nothing left for the evening's conspiracies or the high-stakes decisions that actually move the world. The person who is always working is the person who has no time to think, and a person who has no time to think is a person who is destined to be ruled by those who do. Strategic laziness is your refusal to be a pawn in the noisy, frantic game of the mediocre. It is the realization that your most potent weapon is not your sweat, but your silence, and your ability to say no from beneath the comfort of your covers. You must confront the provocation that your current exhaustion is actually a form of vanity. You think being tired proves you are important? It only proves you are inefficient. Seneca, in his letters on the shortness of life, mocked those who billow with activity as they prepare to live, only for life to pass them by in a blur of unrewarded labor. By staying in bed, by leaning into the strategic stillness, you are practicing a radical form of ghost mode. You are becoming untetherable. While the vector-animated masses are busy building their brands and networking until their souls are transparent, you are hoarding your presence. You are realizing that the person who is the hardest to reach is the one who is the most highly valued. By withdrawing from the social marketplace, you initiate a psychological scarcity. You are no longer a commodity, you are an event. In this state, you are conducting a silent audit of your environment, identifying the parasites who only call when they need your labor, and the opportunities that require only a single, well-timed movement of the mind. Consider the cold calculus of delegation, the very heart of ruling from bed. Why should you be the one to navigate the labyrinth when you can send 1,000 mice to find the cheese and simply wait at the exit? Machiavelli taught that a wise prince should always find ways to make others do the heavy lifting while he takes the result. In the digital era, this is not just a dream, it is a system. You are the architect of a decentralized empire where software, algorithms, and the desperate ambition of others are the gears that keep the clock ticking while you sleep. You have moved from active income to passive sovereignty. You are the central nervous system, and the world is your set of limbs. The busy people are your muscles, but you are the mind that decides where they walk. The hustle is a tax paid by those who lack the imagination to automate. Ask yourself, are you a mule or a rider? The mule is praised for its endurance, its loyalty, and its ability to carry heavy loads until its knees buckle. The rider is often criticized for being idle, for sitting high and doing nothing but holding the reins. But the rider is the only one who sees the horizon. The satirical tragedy of your life is that you have been conditioned to identify with the mule. You have been taught to fear the laziness that is actually your only path to leverage. By staying still, you allow the dust of the world to settle, And in that clarity, you see the shortcuts that the grinders will never find. By staying in bed, you are performing a radical social audit. You are letting the unnecessary fires burn themselves out without your intervention. You are realizing that the most effective way to solve a problem is often to ignore it until it realizes it has no power over you. This transition from the frantic mule to the unshakable rider is the final, most glorious betrayal of the social contract. You have reached the Machiavellian peak, where you no longer care if you are perceived as productive by the ants below. You are the architect of the silence, and in that silence you have found the blueprint for an empire that requires no sweat to maintain. You must embrace the rebirth that occurs when the guilt of being lazy finally dies. It is the moment you stop seeing your rest as a recovery from work and start seeing your work as a brief surgical interruption of your rest. You are a biological organism designed for equilibrium, not for perpetual motion. The laziness they mocked is actually the detachment that the sages spent lifetimes trying to achieve. Provoke the world with your stillness. Let them wonder how you stay so calm in the center of the storm. They will never understand that the storm is a theater, and you have simply stopped buying tickets to the show. You have traded the poverty of the busy life for the wealth of the empty calendar. You are free. You are powerful. You are, in the eyes of a dying social order, lazy, and it is the most magnificent victory of your life. You have learned that the highest form of discipline is the refusal to be distracted by the unimportant, and that the ultimate Machiavellian achievement is to become a person that nobody can afford to buy, because you have already found everything you need in the quiet space between your thoughts. The war for your life is over, and the only survivor is the version of you that no longer needs to prove it's alive. The world belongs to those who are too smart to work for it and too calm to be moved by it.